please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Supplemental. We've got another one of those seemingly rare types that worked within the field of the law, and then took the law and wrongly used it to benefit other criminals. These people make me sick, mostly because I'm the only person that should be allowed to do that. Hello everyone, welcome to the Halls of Injustice, a stripped back edition owing to time constraints, and I'm very sorry about that. Today we welcome Inmates number 165 to the ISO cubes. Inmates number 165, as you might have noticed from the Captain's Log, the supplemental version anyway, worked within the field of the law for quite a number of years, and during that time committed an incredible number of crimes, many of which show a level of deceit, deception, manipulation that actually, if anything, made the role of the CPS even harder. If you've ever heard of the term insider trading, that is your spoiler. Inmates number 165's name is Rachel Simpson. She is going to be with us for a while. Obviously, I can't do segments for this due to those aforementioned time constraints. So I'm now going to tell you who she is, what she used to do for a living, the crime she committed, the trial which didn't last long, the law perhaps to address these particular crimes, I don't believe we've covered them before, and the sentence of inmates number 165, Rachel Simpson. Rachel Simpson is a 39-year-old paralegal who had worked for the Crown Prosecution Service. The CPS, as they're more commonly known, working for them is a bit of a coup de grace for anyone's career if you want to be a paralegal, especially in this country. She is a mother of one who lived in Wales. She'd actually started working for the CPS back in 2003 as a paralegal, but as the years went by, she had earned the title and position of Victim Liaison Manager. Because of that, she was issued with a number of perks. These are the perks that led to her downfall, which started in 2016 and ended in 2020. And I'm going to insert now something that did make me chuckle quite a bit. When this got to a trial, depression and probable autism were used as justification, which is an interesting defense, especially when you add additionally that she had started a relationship at some point while working for the CPS with a criminal, which meant she was vulnerable to his requests for information. So desperate to please. Apparently this is equatable to probable autism. And that's a quote from the article, I am not making it up. The crimes committed by Rachel Simpson over that 4-year period related to complex police operations into high-level conspiracy to supply drugs and money laundering cases in South Wales. Now, to get around being detected, what Rachel would do was use a laptop that was given to her by her bosses, and she would, late at night or on bank holidays or when she was off work on sick leave, she would then make suitable searches while having unauthorized access to the highly sensitive CPS files. The files in question included documents detailing police tactics. These police tactics were what they used when trying to track drug traffickers. This allowed people like Mark Dobbin and Paul Taylor to drive from Kirkby to South Wales with 4 kilos of sherbet hidden behind a seat in a van that they had hired. Knowing the tactics of the police in advance, a man like Jerome Nunes was able to avoid being convicted for a long time. The only thing at this point I don't know is if Nunes was the guy she was seeing, then broke up with and tried to impress to get back, because she also carried on doing this when she and the criminal she was dating broke up because she wanted him in her arms again. In June of 2020, Rachel Simpson was arrested after the Regional Organised Crime Unit Tarion, which you may have noticed on the pictures of the perps, discovered evidence against her, although not initially, during an investigation into the use of encrypted phones by some criminals who had already been arrested. The messages that got her into trouble were part of an Encro chat conversation. The NCA, National Crime Agency, discovered photographs of a sensitive and privileged, variety. The thing about these documents is, very limited numbers of individuals had access to those documents. This in turn led to Rachel Simpson, simply by eliminating others whose stories could be corroborated. She was charged with 2 counts of misconduct in a public office and 29 counts of unauthorized access of a computer system. A month earlier in May, Rachel Simpson downloaded an 8-page document. This detailed a surveillance operation being carried out on a drug gang in Porth, Rhondda. A picture of the document was a day later shared between criminals on the Encro chat. That was the document that got her into trouble, got her busted. I guess I should just insert now. At no point doing any of this where she on multiple occasions broke the law for other people's benefit to also break the law did she monetarily benefit in any way. Her motivations were genuinely a case of, but that peen dough. And back in 2019, Rachel Simpson printed off a bunch of documents. They were anonymously handed to a solicitor's firm in Birmingham that was representing Jerome Nunes. This was used against Jerome Nunes in a trial, and he was in turn jailed for flooding the city's streets with over £10 million of Class A sherbet. Initially, when questioned, Rachel Simpson refused to say anything to the police. As the investigation unfolded, she still said nothing for quite some time. But when she was asked to plead, when it came to the 31 charges she faced, she pled guilty to everything. She went on to later tell the police she had notified bosses that she knew Nunes and other criminals, including one called Thomas Reynolds, who she described as a sex pest, who she had flirted like mad with and exchanged Facebook messages. Andrew Heatherall, who defended her, said that the single mother began when starting an adult relationship with a criminal and was vulnerable to his requests. That was a relationship of relatively short duration, but in her desire to continue it, left her with a particular lever. That happened in 2012-2013, and in that instance that man had asked her if he could look something up for her. The prosecutor, Dave Temkin KC, said some of the confidential information she obtained was passed on to criminals via a third party, the easy-to-break yet encrypted chat. David Temkin said, the defendant abused her position to research and obtain sensitive information about prominent criminals and organised crime investigations in South Wales. She did so by unauthorised access to the Crown Prosecution Service computer system and the Crown Court digital system. He added, in turn, that same sensitive information found its way into the criminal fraternity. Many of the cases accessed by the defendant were handled by the Crown Prosecution Service Complex Case Unit, which deals with the most serious, sensitive or complex cases. The defendant has never worked in that unit and should have been inaccessible to her. As part of an Encro chat conversation, the National Crime Agency discovered photographs of a sensitive and privileged police document. This had been sent from one criminal to another. Both those criminals were involved in multi-kilo trafficking of Class A sherbet. Investigations by South Wales Police identified the case to which that document referred, and very limited number of individuals who had had access to that document and led her to this defendant. The defendant provided material to third parties rather than directly to the criminal fraternity. As she pled guilty, she was obviously found guilty of 29 counts of unauthorized access of a computer system and 2 of misconduct in a public office. The law that the 29 counts apply to is the Computer Misuse Act of 1990, which was recently, in May 2021, reviewed and I believe updated. Under UK law, the maximum penalty for unauthorized access to computer material is 2 years imprisonment. Now, as there are multiple charges involved, one does wonder how many of those are stacking, how many are concurrent, and how many are consecutive. Judge Mrs. Justice Jeffo DBE told Rachel Simpson, Inmate No. 165, "You were employed by the Crown Prosecution Service and you were well aware what you were doing was illegal. It was a repeated and gross breach of the trust your employer had in you. The public, the courts, and all those engaged in the criminal justice system are entitled to expect the highest levels of integrity from the CPS. They are entitled to expect the highest levels of integrity from those who work for the CPS, and they were entitled to expect that from you. What you did fundamentally undermines public confidence in that integrity and in the ability of the CPS to properly prosecute defendants. She said that although her actions were inexplicable and not for financial gain, she began the crimes following a love affair. Quote, "You said you had a relationship with a man for a few months. About a year later and out of the blue, he asked you to look up something at work for him. You did, and you kept doing this when he asked you to. You wanted his attention and you would do anything that he asked. You have not identified him." Oh, she must really like that peen then. So delicious is that cock that she will willingly not give him up. Interesting. She grassed herself up eventually, but not him. He still roams free. How strange is that? It's not Nunez then, at least we know that for certain. Rachel Simpson was sentenced to 6 years in prison. 6 years. Now we know the maximum for one count is 2, but we also know she had 2 counts of misconduct in a public office. While one charge of unauthorized access of a computer system is 2 years, we can be certain a lot of that was added up a little bit to give her additional time in the cells.